They were the biggest loser of the weekend for mine, not because of the score, but it was the way they played, their lack of intensity. Here's Leon Cameron straight after the match.
Clearly, 7 years ago when we first started, or 8 years ago when we first started, you probably knew that we were in a building phase. But, I've been bullish about us wanting to play finals footy in 2021. And, clearly that performance doesn't stack up at all.
Indeed. It looked like they were crumbling. It looked as if they lacked intensity. Now, there may be a slide out because it was a hard slog the week before against St Kilda, and St Kilda played well, but you'd be hard-pressed to be grabbing at that. And Leon put his players on notice in round 2. It's too early to be putting blokes on notice.
It's early, but it might be the last straw because I fear for this group now, this core group that have been close. They were there in 2016 in the prelim and the 2019 grand final. I think their run's over. That core group that was touted there for a while as having the potential to win 3 out of the next 5 premierships without almost not blowing it up because they've got a lot of young talent on their list, but without something drastic changing within that group, their run is over. They're trending the wrong way.
You were there, Gerard. Oh, sorry, you did the game last night. You weren't there, but you watched it closer than anyone else. What's their main issue?
Well, to me it was intensity, and it was there early. It was a smelly first quarter, as if they kicked the first goal and then their work rate was just not there. And just have a look at this.
I went and watched this quarter back today, Gerard.
Yeah.
This is the start of the end. Up until this point with 7 minutes to go, they're even. They kicked to a 4-on-2, and then what you're about to show us unfolds, and from there on it was downhill. But right to there, they were in this.
They were indeed, but they've kicked the ball, the Dockers, beautifully. And now they're going to kick it short. Have a look at the 3 blokes loitering at the top. There is a free Docker there. Do you reckon there's any chance they may want to kick it to him? Everybody's now looking away. What are they actually looking at? I'm not sure. There's a spare there. And this was the start of the finish, because it doesn't even go to the main man. It goes to somebody else. And then midway through or early in the second quarter, you get this. Now, Fast Freddy, he's fast. That's why they call him Fast Freddy. I get it. But he goes straight past others who are still loafing. They are just jogging. And when you've got guys jogging in the second quarter, at least Cornelio, the skipper, had a fair crack early in the piece. It doesn't come there. But when you look at the likes of Buckley and Taylor and Perryman, they'd given up the ghost. And it wasn't just them. It was across the board. Senior players as well. They were embarrassed by a bloke 35 years of age, Mundy, who had 35 touches and 20
So who are you sheeting responsibility for that to?
Well, it's got to be senior players. I mean, this is the group. The guys that are there, they're on big money. They've got a few out.
Who are the senior players?
Well, you've got your captain. I thought their captain was okay. But in the middle of the ground, you've got
Jacob Hopper.
They didn't have a lot out, Gerard.
They didn't have a few out. They got Whitfield out, who's a runner. Yeah. Kelly isn't the Kelly that I would have had as my first pick from the Giants 2 or 3 years ago.
Josh Kelly.
Not playing with any intensity. He may want to play inside. He's playing on the outside.
When Josh Kelly arrived, we all looked at him and we thought, this guy is going to be excellent. And he was. In 2017, he was one of the elite players of the competition. But you look at him now, in terms of impact on games, he's a good to average player, at best, from a guy that was compared to Scott Pendlebury 5 years ago. So you talk about the Giants and the senior players that they have. Who are the players that have improved, Gary? Yeah,
so Cornelio's just stagnated. Kelly's one of those. Then your Finlayson, Davis's best footy's behind him. Ward's best footy's behind. De Boer's best footy's behind. Mumford can't get back. Who's on the list, can't get on the park. And you go through the list, Gerard, they got a dozen first-round picks still who haven't played much footy. So
this is a crumbling, Gary, that's been going on since the grand final. They've won just 8 out of 11. This is just 50%. And again, their ball movement continues to be the problem.
Why wouldn't, when I ask you responsibility, the coach has to take that responsibility, doesn't he?
Well, I assume that's the stated obvious, but I'm talking about a response. The response has to come, and it can only come from the middle of the ground with the players. So clearly, Leon Cameron, he's the focus. He's under the pump. He's the one running the ship. But if you can't move the ball from the back half to the front half,
that's what's most frustrating,
major trouble.
Gerard, I know you coined the phrase, the Orange Tsunami. Where is the Orange Tsunami?
I'll tell you where it is. It's playing at Carlton. It's playing at North Melbourne. It's playing at St Kilda with Jack Steele. Tomlinson's in Melbourne. Marchbank's at the Blues. Dylan Shield and Devon Smith there at Essendon. I mean, this is the problem. This has been the unravelling of this, and it all goes back to mismanagement of salary cap. And I understand that there were reasons why they had to pay a couple of big-name players, but you've got to keep the core together.
It was a debacle to lose Jeremy Cameron, though. You must prioritise your star key forward over paying mids. They've overpaid mids. Now, if you're going to lose them, you lose a mid. They're no chance to kick winning scores. I know their midfield. We're critical of their midfield. And they haven't got enough spread and pop. But you cannot lose an elite key forward.
Well, he's not there at the moment.
Well,
He's gone to Geelong.
That's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. You cannot lose him.
You talk about all those players that have left. They've replaced them, Gerard. I can run you through all of these. They're all...
Jeremy Cameron, have they replaced?
No. Well, I'm saying they're kids that they've replaced them with. They're 1 to 20 picks. And they're there, but they're a mile off it. So they are back to starting again. And they've got... There's quality from a draft point of view. These aren't 40s and 50s and 60s. These are 1 to 20 players.
That's what I mean by the core of this group that had their go. I think it's now almost time for those young guys to come through.
But if you look at some of the core in the middle of the ground, you've got Taranto and Hopper.
Yeah. Are we convinced about all those guys?
Cornelia. Well, I think
Kelly used to be one of those.
The mix is wrong at the moment. It's a stoppage mix. It's a slowish, big-bodied mix.
But isn't that the issue?
At the moment, at the weekend, they were embarrassed
Look at that.
with stoppages.
Look at those midfield numbers.
They're the midfield numbers of the Giants who have got second and third year players with speed that gave them a nice old lesson.
Isn't that the issue though? They've always been defined by talent. So they've always had great players, but have they ever been a great complementary team?
So the development, whoever's in development with Stevie J and Mark McVeigh, they've got an enormous job. At a time when we're cutting back on a soft cap, these kids need work. They need time and work.
Well, I was disappointed they dropped Tom Green. I know he's another inside mid, but he's the one that, to me, if you're looking at rebuilding, get him back in that side and push a couple of the others in the forward half who can play that role better.
I watched Freo last week against Melbourne. They were decimated with numbers, right?
Yeah.
They had their highest D50 to inside 50 numbers since 2014 against this GWS side.
Well, I thought Gerard summed it up well. I know you showed that bit of vision, Gaz, that wasn't until 20 minutes into the first quarter. But, Gerard, you nailed it. It had a smell. It had a bad smell from the get-go about the way GWS, and so I'm going to highlight a guy like Jacob Hopper, okay? Supposedly an elite midfielder, okay? His defensive efforts were poor across the board. He's a senior midfielder, so that's going to permeate its way through. And now I'm starting to wonder about this senior core, the doubts. What's going on in the back of it? They put their head on the pillow at night and go, have we missed our window? Well, we've seen all these players leave.
Isn't that the greatest question that none of us can answer? Is that how big is the buy-in now? Because that's what this is what's being tested right now. Because as Rui says, and I don't think too many disagree, that this opportunity's passed them by. They've got a heap of talented kids there still, but it's going to take some time. So
this opportunity has passed them by. You can't see them win the flag.
No, that's right. So is Josh Kelly prepared to dig in? Is Toby Green going to dig in? Is Hopper going to? Because they'll all get offers. They'll all get the money thrown at them to say, here's the easy out. Come and join us over here in Melbourne. Have they got a culture and a club that says, no, I'm here, I want to build again? And that's what we're going to find answered in the next 8 to 10 weeks.
Well, you're going to get an opportunity, Gary, to see on the weekend and for the next 4 weeks. Sunday night, they've got a big challenge coming up. They've got the Demons in Canberra. Now, the Demons are pretty hot at the present time, and this is not going to be an easy victory. So if there was an issue with fatigue from the St Kilda game, well, Canberra is the time to put your flag in the sand and show your members there. Then you got the Pies, and then you got crosstown rival Sydney, who was supposed to be bottom 4. They're looking like they're going to push for the 8, and then the Western Bulldogs. It's a tough month.
Can you see a win? Can you see a win?
Every chance there's zipping 6.
Don't look any further. Wipe off Collingwood, Sydney, and the Dogs. Just throw them away.
Quarter time against Melbourne.
There it is, and that is. And Melbourne are going really well. We'll talk about them in a moment. But that is what they set themselves for. And, hey, we'll find out about them.